music industry is in turmoil. And the traditional methods of marketing and distribution, sales channels are failing or have failed. From an entrepreneurial perspective, is it a good thing, good time for entrepreneurs? Is it a bad thing for entrepreneurs? And Panos, since you're furthest away from me, I'll ask you.
Well, I'm always a sunny guy, so I'll say that of course it's the best time ever. For a number of reasons. I feel that if you take at the industry 10 years ago, there was a relatively limited way for an artist to actually get, this continues by the way, the feedback, but anyway, there was a fairly limited way for an artist to get exposure. So you either had to go through the traditional route of radio or TV or through retail. The internet in many ways has been the digital equivalent of the French Revolution. It's given rise to an artistic middle class that is really able to use all these different resources that exist out there and get their music heard and distributed. First, when you look at the cost of production, things or services like GarageBand really enable you to make music for just a fraction of the cost. When you look at distribution, services like CD Baby or TuneCore enable you as an artist to really get your music out there in front of millions and millions of people and compete literally with any major level artist without having to be on a label. When you look at services like MySpace or Facebook, you're able to develop an audience and reach an audience and cultivate an audience in ways that just a handful of years ago a major label would have spent millions of dollars to put you in front of all those people. And lastly, through services like Sonic Bids, you're able to develop professional connections and book tours and get your music out there and do podcasts and even companies like MTV without having to have a publisher or sometimes even an agent or a manager. So for me, when you look at entrepreneurship, there's really two things you got to look at. There's the artist as entrepreneur, and certainly when the means of promotion and means of production are coming down in terms of cost, that creates all kinds of opportunities. And then when you look at all the kind of companies that have been created, whenever there's a disturbance in a particular ecosystem, there is always a rise of a new one. And I think that's where we are right now. So 40, 50 years ago, the entrepreneurs that existed were people like Ahmet Ertegun and David Geffen and all these guys who really came in and disturbed the old world order. And today, I think it's companies like Sonic Bids or TuneCore or certainly MySpace or Facebook that are taking over. So again, I look at crisis or disturbance as an opportunity, whether that's an economic change that's happening or whether that's a fundamental change in the way that the industry is behaving. So whether you're an artist entrepreneur, there's great opportunity, and whether you are somebody who's interested in starting a business to exploit these opportunities, I think there's fantastic opportunity out there. And who knows where this will go in the next 5 years? I know, I met you, Keith, when I was running Sonic out of my home apartment, and I certainly did not expect that I would be here, 6, 7, 8 years ago, and having everything from companies like Converse or MTV or Starbucks using Sonic Bids. I never thought that a coffee shop and a shoe company would be competing for that same asset called an artist and their music. So I think when you're running a business, always just be open to opportunities, be opportunistic, and that's exactly the time that we're in right now.
Yeah, I agree. I think, and I too am a sunny person, but I think that the music business is funny because musicians, there's an odd dichotomy, right, between sort of conservatism and almost reactionary behavior on the part of musicians. I know musicians who are purely classical musicians, and they could never imagine trying to play Miles Davis or Thelonious or those are sort of the my personal loves. And in some ways, in order to be a really great musician, you need to focus and you need to be kind of narrow in your pursuit of excellence in what you do or in your particular genre. I think that to a certain extent breeds, in some cases, kind of a prejudice against technology. The idea that with a machine anybody can be a composer. Well, I've heard classical musicians say, well, that's horrible. You know, so where's the screen? You know, where's the screen to virtuosity? And that is sort of classic reactionary behavior. You know, the wonderful thing about computers is, or about airplanes or any machines, is that they magnify our ability to do stuff. You know, to get from here to Tokyo, we can go there in 14 hours. We couldn't do that on our own, obviously. And the computer, in terms of the music making process, is to me just another tool. I mean, you know, musicians have always used available technology to make music. And 10,000 years ago, it was an animal skin strung over a barrel to make a drum. Today, it's a computer. And I absolutely believe that technology can free people. You know, from the sort of, you don't need to have great chops to make music anymore. It can come directly from your brain, and you can be a composer. And I think in 100 years, we will have, you know, virtuosity in the computer, you know, people using computers. We're sort of seeing it today, although I think it's in spud form. But I'm sure the first drummer 10,000 years ago, you know, sucked, right? But you know, you listen to Dennis Chambers today and you see the evolution. So I do believe that the technology creates, you know, huge opportunities, and we'll get beyond the present issue we're in. The other thing is that the music business. Somebody made the point. I forgot who said this, but you know, it's not that the music business is stagnating. The music business is actually growing. You know, it's the record business that's not growing, and the record business is just one, you know, small aspect. In fact, performance. I dug this up on the internet. The performance revenues in North America were something like 1.7 billion in 2000. They're over 3 billion today, and the relationship between recorded music as a way to, you know, generate revenues and performance, it's flipped. It used to be 1/3 performance, 2/3 you know, records. Now it's flipped. So it's chaos, but chaos is chaos is great. I mean, that's where opportunities come from.
I look at it and say, first of all, recorded music kind of dominated the business. It was about, at the beginning of the decade, so the 2000 decade, it was $40 billion business. It's about $20 billion today. Probably numbers. You know, when I started running Groove, I got a subscription to Billboard, which was kind of cool, right? I get Father of the Year because I got to take my daughter to the Grammys and to take my daughter to the Grammys in LA. And, it was that kind of dislocation is huge. And I got, you know, to meet a lot of people when I was running Groove, because we did deals with all the record labels, basically, because we were selling songs on cell phones. And the industry is populated, the business side of it, in many cases, it's populated by people who are concerned about keeping their jobs as the thing slides. And while the digital revolution is absolutely wonderful, that's what I said, I'm invested in it, so I have a sunny personality to be willing to invest. And I spent almost 2 years of my life running this company where these guys said, you know, hey man, we sunk like, I mean, we got, by the way, we sold the business for $15 million. You get to keep, while wickedly profitable, most of the money goes to the people, as it rightly should, that, you know, wrote and performed the music, and that's that sort of business. But we would have had to sell about $100 million a year just to break even to pay for the 70 people we had up in Bedford. So, you know, I look at it from a business perspective and say, you know, where are the opportunities? I saw probably, you know, sort of in my time doing this, probably a good half dozen ideas that are going on. So there are some significant opportunities if you're thinking of starting businesses today, but it is a business where people are, you know, they're like, you know, they'd say when people drowned or whatever, they grab onto people and start pulling them down with them. I would say that the music business largely is like that. I mean, I saw these examples where you would go to, I don't know if you've seen, like on the cell phones, Nokia, which is a Finnish, they're #1 in the cell phone business. They're not that big in the United States. They actually, we had gone to a number of the record labels and said, look, with everybody sort of assuming music's free, because young people assume music is free, and actually there's no moral thing going through people's brain. There's no wrong thing associated with it. We just suggested, why would we not? We have these big record catalogs, I mean, literally of every song you could imagine available in 20 seconds on your cell phone. Look, if you consumed every waking minute and just started downloading them onto your phone, we just said, why don't you just, for a fixed price, you know, and the numbers we bandied about were like, suppose you could get $50 for every cell phone, unlimited use. Music's for free. You get a cell phone for $50 here. You can make phone calls on it. You get a cell phone for $100. Here, it'll play music as long as that phone exists.